You never planned to become a priest. You didn't even believe in God. But when the bank started asking too many questions about your cash flow, you realized the one institution nobody dares to audit is the church. So here you are, standing in a donated clerical collar, about to run the most profitable money laundering operation in the city. Your real name doesn't matter anymore. To your congregation, you're Father Michael, a humble servant who showed up 6 months ago to revive a dying parish in the poorest neighborhood imaginable. The church was perfect, crumbling walls, a leaky roof, and exactly 4 elderly parishioners who showed up on Sundays. The diocese was so desperate they didn't even run a proper background check. They just handed you the keys and prayed you'd work a miracle. You did, just not the kind they were hoping for. The operation is elegant in its simplicity. Drug dealers, human traffickers, and gun runners can't exactly deposit duffel bags of cash at Chase Bank without triggering a federal investigation. But a church receiving generous donations from its devoted flock? That's just faith in action. You set up collection boxes at every entrance. You organized charity drives. You even started a building fund to fix that convenient leaky roof. Every Sunday, your parishioners file in. Drop envelopes stuffed with cash into the donation baskets, sit through your terrible sermon about loving thy neighbor, then leave. The money gets counted, recorded as legitimate charitable contributions, deposited into the church's account, and then transferred to various contractors and charitable organizations that exist only on paper. Clean money comes out the other side. The real genius? You actually fixed the roof. You repainted the walls. You bought new pews. Nothing attracts attention faster than a broke church suddenly flush with cash and nothing to show for it. So you made the church beautiful. You started a food bank that actually feeds people. You hired a part-time youth counselor. The 4 original parishioners cried tears of joy watching their beloved church transform. They think you're a saint. The irony keeps you awake some nights. Your first major client walked in on a Tuesday. He introduced himself as Ramon, though you knew exactly who he was, a mid-level cartel operator moving product through the Port District. He sat in your office, looked you dead in the eye, and slid an envelope across the desk containing $50,000. He didn't threaten you, didn't need to. He simply asked if you were the kind of priest who understood that God works in mysterious ways. You counted the cash slowly, let the silence stretch, then quoted a Bible verse about rendering unto Caesar. He smiled. You'd just passed the test? The system scaled fast. Ramon brought friends. Those friends brought associates. Within 3 months, you were processing $500,000 monthly. The diocese noticed your fundraising success and sent a congratulatory letter praising your devotion. They asked if you'd share your strategies with struggling parishes across the state. You politely declined, citing humility. But success breeds complications. The original elderly parishioners started inviting their friends. Real believers began showing up, people who actually wanted spiritual guidance. You found yourself conducting genuine baptisms, hearing confessions, counseling couples through marital problems. The absurdity wasn't lost on you. A criminal running a fake church accidentally becoming a real priest to maintain his cover. Then Maria appeared. She started attending every Sunday, always sitting in the 3rd row, always alone. Mid-30s, tired eyes, a daughter clinging to her hand. After Mass one morning, she approached you with tears streaming down her face. Her husband had died, she explained. Cancer. The medical bills destroyed them. She was 3 months behind on rent, about to be evicted, and her daughter's birthday was next week. She'd been praying for a miracle. You felt something uncomfortable twist in your chest. This woman was exactly the kind of person your operation was built to ignore. She had nothing you needed. Helping her offered 0 profit. The smart play was a sympathetic smile and a referral to social services. Instead, you heard yourself telling her to wait. You went to the church safe, pulled out $2,000 from the week's donations, and handed it to her in an envelope. You told her it was from the Emergency Assistance Fund. She collapsed into sobs, calling you an angel sent from heaven. That night, Ramon showed up unannounced at your residence behind the church. He'd heard about your charitable donation. He wasn't pleased. He reminded you that the money flowing through your church wasn't actually yours to distribute. Every dollar had an owner, and those owners didn't appreciate freelance philanthropy. He didn't threaten violence, but his message was clear. Your job was to clean money, not redistribute it. Stay in your lane or find yourself in a confessional that doubled as a coffin. You apologized, assured him it wouldn't happen again. He left satisfied, but something had shifted. You'd spent months playing a priest, and somewhere in the performance, a sliver of the character had infected the actor. The next Sunday, attendance hit an all-time high. Your money laundering clients mixed seamlessly with genuine worshipers. You preached about redemption to a room full of people who needed it, criminals and struggling families sitting in adjacent pews. The collection baskets overflowed. You processed the money with mechanical efficiency, separating the marked bills from the genuine donations, routing everything through the proper channels. But you kept thinking about Maria, about her daughter's birthday, about the mathematical reality that the amount you'd given her represented roughly 30 seconds of your operation's weekly cash flow. You could help dozens like her without even denting the profit margins. The thought was dangerous. The thought was stupid. The thought wouldn't leave. Wednesday afternoon, a black sedan pulled up outside the church. Two men in expensive suits stepped out. They weren't your usual clients. These men moved with a different kind of authority. Federal agents don't announce themselves, but you can always spot them. They walked through your front door like they owned the place. You stood from your desk and met them in the sanctuary. They introduced themselves with badge flips so quick you barely caught the names. FBI, Financial Crimes Division. They'd been investigating irregularities in your church's financial records. Donation patterns that didn't match typical nonprofit behavior. Large cash deposits with no corresponding donor documentation. You felt your pulse hammering, but kept your face pastoral and confused. You explained that you were new to church administration, that the previous bookkeeper had left things disorganized, that you were still learning nonprofit compliance. They nodded with smiles that didn't reach their eyes, asked if they could look around. You had no legal grounds to refuse without raising suspicion, so you agreed. Showed them the office, the donation records, the bank statements. Everything appeared legitimate on paper because you'd been meticulous. They spent an hour photographing documents, asking questions about specific donors who didn't exist. You provided answers that were technically true but meaningfully false. Finally, they thanked you for your cooperation and left. You waited until their sedan disappeared before allowing yourself to panic. You called Ramon immediately. He arrived within 20 minutes, fury radiating off him like heat. The feds sniffing around meant your operation had somehow pinged their algorithms. Maybe a pattern in the deposits, maybe an informant, maybe just bad luck. Either way, the church was now toxic. Ramon ordered an immediate shutdown. All laundering operations would cease within 48 hours. The building would be sold, the accounts closed, your identity burned. You'd be relocated to a different city with a different cover. Standard protocol when he'd arrived. You should have felt relieved. This nightmare was ending. But you looked around the sanctuary and saw the faces of people who'd started depending on this place. Maria wasn't the only one. You'd been quietly helping others. An elderly man whose pension didn't cover his medications. A single father whose car broke down, costing him his job. A teenager who needed money for college applications. Nothing massive, just small interventions that happen to cost nothing compared to the cash flowing through your operation. Those people weren't part of Ramon's exit strategy. They'd wake up Sunday to find their church abandoned, their priest vanished, their fragile stability shattered again. The thought made you physically ill. That night, you sat alone in the empty sanctuary. Moonlight filtered through the stained glass, painting colored shadows across the pews. You'd been pretending to be a priest for months, but you'd never actually prayed. The irony felt sharp. You didn't believe in God. You believed in numbers, in probability, in the cold mechanics of survival. Prayer was a linguistic performance for the marks. Yet you found yourself speaking into the darkness anyway. Not to God exactly, but to whatever mechanism in the universe determines whether people like you get chances at something better. You told the empty room that you were tired of being what you'd become, that you wanted the exit Ramon was offering, but you wanted it on different terms. You wanted to take the money you'd accumulated and actually help the people who needed it. You wanted to stop pretending to be good and try actually being good. The sanctuary offered no response. Stone and wood don't provide guidance. But sitting there in the silence, you made a decision that would either save you or destroy you. You spent the next day liquidating everything you could access. Not the cartel's money, you weren't suicidal, but your personal cut from months of operations, your emergency reserves, every dollar you'd skimmed legally from the legitimate donations. It totaled just under $40,000. You withdrew it in cash. Then you started making calls. You contacted every person you'd helped, plus a dozen others you'd identified as desperate. You told them the church was closing unexpectedly, but there was emergency assistance available. You set up appointments throughout the day. Each person arrived expecting prayer and sympathy. Instead, you handed them envelopes, amounts calibrated to their specific crises. Enough to matter, not enough to raise questions. You told each of them the money came from an anonymous donor who wanted to help before the church dissolved. You watched their faces transform, disbelief into hope into tears. You were violating every rule of your profession, creating witnesses who could describe you, building a paper trail of goodwill that served no strategic purpose. Ramon would consider it catastrophic operational security, but you'd stopped caring about Ramon's assessments. By evening, the money was gone. Your reserves depleted. You'd just made yourself financially vulnerable for the first time in years, and it felt unexpectedly right. You packed a single bag with essentials, left everything else behind. The FBI would return eventually, and when they did, they'd find an empty building with immaculate records and no forwarding address. Ramon's people would come looking for you when you missed the scheduled check-in. They'd find the same nothing. You were burning your bridges in both directions, criminal and federal. It was objectively insane. You drove through the night, heading west with no specific destination. Just distance, just movement. Somewhere in Nevada, as the sun rose over empty desert, you stopped at a rest area. You bought terrible coffee from a vending machine and sat on a concrete bench watching the light change. For the first time in your adult life, you had no identity, no cover story, no organization backing you, no plan beyond surviving the next 24 hours. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like breathing after being underwater too long. You'd been a criminal playing a priest who accidentally started acting like one. Now you were just a person who'd done something decent and paid for it with everything. Whether that made you stupid or redeemed didn't matter. You were free from the performance. Your phone buzzed. Unknown number. You stared at it, knowing it was either Ramon or the feds. Either meant the end of this fragile moment. You let it ring out, finished your coffee, walked back to your car, drove toward whatever came next. The rearview mirror showed nothing but empty highway. No pursuit. Not yet. Just open road and possibility. You turned up the radio and kept driving into the light. You never set out to be anyone's savior. You just wanted to clean dirty money and stay breathing. But somewhere between the fake sermons and real confessions, between laundering cash and actually helping people, the mask fused to your face. Now you're driving through the desert with nothing but a tank of gas and the strange weight of having done one decent thing in a lifetime of wrong ones. Maybe that's not redemption. Maybe it's just a different kind of running. Either way, the road stretches out ahead, and for once, you're not looking back.